Welcome back to Uncaged Chaos, where we talk about healing, growth, and the chaos in between. I'm your host, Andi, certified life coach and fellow chaotic human, bringing language to what healing actually is. Today is the first episode of a new series called A Series of Emotions, and I figured what better place to start than with the emotion that gets blamed for everything: anger. Because anger has a bad reputation. Nobody brags about being angry. Nobody says, I hope my kids grow up to be angry. We treat anger like it's the villain, something to suppress, to control, to get rid of. But what if anger isn't the villain? What if anger is the bodyguard? What if anger is the smoke detector of emotions? Loud, uncomfortable, impossible to ignore. Not because it's trying to ruin your peace, because it's trying to protect something that matters. But here's the truth. Anger is rarely the true emotion. It's usually the one standing in front of something more vulnerable. Hurt, grief, rejection, disappointment, shame, jealousy, loneliness, helplessness. Anger shows up because those emotions don't always feel safe enough to do so themselves. And before anger ever becomes words, it becomes a sensation like any other emotion. You feel it before you think it. Your jaw tightens, your shoulders rise, your chest gets hot, your stomach knots, your fists clench, your face flushes, heart starts racing. You feel restless, agitated, almost like electricity running through your body. But that's because anger isn't just happening in your mind, it's happening in your nervous system. When anger shows up, your amygdala, the threat detector in your brain, sounds the alarm. And it doesn't stop to ask, is this dangerous? It asks, could this hurt us? And if the answer is maybe, your body gets ready for action. Heart rate increases, muscles tighten, stress hormones flood your brain and your system. Your thinking brain starts losing access to its controls, and suddenly you're not responding from wisdom. You're responding from protection, which is why we've all sent that text, raised our voice, become defensive, shut down, said things we wish we could take back. Because when the smoke detector is going off, your brain prioritizes survival over understanding. And here's the thing. The amygdala doesn't know the difference between being abandoned and feeling abandoned, between being attacked and feeling criticized, between being unsafe and just feeling unseen. It just knows something hurts, so it sounds the alarm. And sometimes that alarm is absolutely accurate. A boundary was crossed. Someone betrayed your trust. Something isn't okay. But sometimes the smoke detector is reacting to old fires, old wounds, old stories, old pain. And that's why we have to regulate before we investigate. You can't understand what anger is trying to tell you while your nervous system believes the house is on fire. So first regulate, then investigate, not the other way around. And maybe that means naming what you're actually feeling. Not, I'm pissed, but I'm hurt. I'm disappointed. I'm scared. I'm grieving. But if those are too hard still, maybe it means just taking a breath and making the exhale longer than the inhale. Maybe it means taking a walk, stretching, lifting weights, crying, shaking out the energy. Because anger is energy, and energy wants movement. Now, please understand your feelings are always valid, and how you exert them is not always. Make sure to channel the energy in a healthy way and never towards anyone else. Then once the alarm quiets down a little, ask yourself, what am I protecting? What hurts? What expectation wasn't met? What am I afraid this means? What am I grieving? Because anger usually isn't the fire. It's the smoke detector telling you something deserves your attention. Not all of us were taught to experience anger the same way either. For many of us, anger was the only emotion they were allowed to have. Sadness was weakness, fear was weakness, even vulnerability was weakness. But anger looked strong. So grief became irritation, fear became control, hurt became rage. Not because some don't feel deeply, but because they were only taught one emotional language. And for others, this message was different. Be nice. Don't be difficult. Don't be dramatic. Don't make people uncomfortable. So sadness, self-sacrifice, and people-pleasing became more acceptable. But anger became too much. Showed up as bitchy, bossy, crazy, even unhinged. So instead of expressing anger outwardly, many people have learned to turn it inward. They over-explain, overfunction, apologize constantly, swallow resentment, abandon themselves. One person explodes, one person implodes. But underneath both of them, the same emotions. Jealousy, hurt, loneliness, disappointment, grief, shame. Anger isn't the problem. It's often the only part that believes it's allowed to speak. And maybe that's the real work. Not becoming less angry, but becoming more emotionally fluent. Being able to say, I'm angry because I'm hurt. I'm angry because I'm disappointed. I'm angry because I'm scared. I'm angry because I feel rejected. Or even, I'm angry because I'm grieving. Because vulnerability isn't weakness, and anger isn't weakness. They're invitations. And maybe the cage isn't even the anger. Maybe the cage is everything we've been taught about anger. Maybe somewhere along the way, we learned that certain emotions make us lovable and others make us unacceptable. So we buried them. But everything you have buried inside is buried alive, just waiting for the opportunity to see the light again. And buried emotions don't disappear. They show up in different ways. They become anxiety, resentment, control, perfectionism, panic, numbness, and even explosions. Because ignored smoke doesn't put out the fires. So if you've been taught that anger makes you bad, difficult, or broken, I want you to hear this. Maybe you're angry because something matters. Maybe you're angry because something hurts. Maybe you're angry because a boundary was crossed. Because you've spent your whole life trying to become who everyone else needed you to be. And somewhere inside, the smoke detector has been going off for years. But not to punish you, and not to show you you're failing, but because something precious inside of you is asking to be noticed. So don't shame the alarm. Just listen to it. Because healing isn't about becoming someone who never feels anger. It's about learning to understand what the fire is trying to tell you. So until next time, keep uncaging the chaos. And remember, healing isn't about fixing what's broken, because you were never broken. You're just learning how to be fucking human again.